How does a tomato plant relate to a sideways economy? I'll get to that in a second, but first I wanted to start with a story. In 2012, I graduated with my master's degree, and I was so full of hope and so excited. I had in my mind that I was going to go out and start a business, and I was looking, I was studying. All during my grad school, I was writing different business plans and coming up with ideas. So in all of my research, I had found this great business. The competition level was low. Not a whole lot of people were fighting over it, which should have been a clue. But I did my due diligence. I went to YouTube and I watched 2 videos. I felt like I had kind of figured it out. And so the next thing was to negotiate with Alicia, who was the banker, and she relented eventually, and I pulled money out of savings. So then I invested and bought 2 massage vending chairs, which is those chairs that you've seen them probably in the mall or in different kids' play areas. And initially, it was okay returns, but I wasn't really interested in okay, so I continued looking, and a friend of mine also in that business told me about another machine, and so I invested in that machine. It was called a Boxer, and I got those placed in different locations. One location did okay. One location did amazing. And so to me, that was the feedback I was looking for. I was off to the races. It's time to make some money. And so I now invested 6 times my initial investment and bought all of these Boxers. I paid for a guy to go around and get them all placed. He ended up getting them placed from just south of Oklahoma border down to Austin. So it's about a 4-hour drive. And for the next 2 years, every weekend I was out driving and servicing those machines. I was so excited by this business because you just place it and people use it and they put their money in there. And so to me, I was like, wow, this is like a mousetrap, but for money. And so for 2 years, I was out there working, and eventually we got to the place where we realized we're not making any money. I had taken out a lot of debt, and the fact that we weren't bringing in the cash that we were expecting, and we never even got close to the results that got me super excited ever again, it meant that we couldn't meet the obligations that we had set up. And so I set up this really rough situation for myself because I wasn't listening to the feedback. And that's an individual experience. Overall, what I had expected and what was reality were different, and I had to come to that conclusion eventually. So we went through the very painful process of shutting down and selling off what assets we had at a big loss. And having gone through that experience, I've shared the experience with a lot of friends who are entrepreneurs because it's one of the most beautiful blessings of my life. I got to learn a lot because I had to go through the experience one way or the other, and I wanted to make the most out of it. Now, I started with the question about a tomato. So in today's economy, there's a lot of things going on that people can't control. With a tomato, when you go to plant a tomato, if you buy it from the Home Depot or whatever, you probably buy it in a pot and it sits about this tall. And the way that you plant it is, here's the pot, it sits about this tall, you break off the leaves on the bottom, which are the sucker leaves, and then you bury that deep in the ground. And you want to leave just a little bit of the top of the tomato outside of it. The reason you bury it deep is that the tomato, once it gets into the ground, is then going to use all of that stem to grow roots. And it will really expand the root base and make the tomato plant healthier. Where there's a lot of people being impacted by a sideways economy, whether their job was suddenly not there anymore, their business suddenly didn't have revenue anymore, what was expected and what reality turned out to be were very different. And a lot of people are feeling that pinch, that pressure of being buried. And so the reason I start with my story of my business that failed, where my reality wasn't what I was hoping for, and a lot of people are feeling that same experience, now is a great time to take root, to really build good practices into your day. This is a feeling of disillusionment, the idea that this is the way things are and this is the way things always will be. Now we become separated from an illusion. So look for the truths that are out there. Find ways to really take advantage of this. And people who have their eyes open, I think, come out of this economy stronger than they ever would have been otherwise. So there's actually one more piece of advice, and this I think is a good one. Anytime I'm talking to somebody who's about to start a business, I point out you should pay attention to the name. I had said the name of my company was Mousetrap Vending. What I realized in the end, I was the one who was getting trapped, and oh man, that hit hard. So make sure when you name your company that there's no ironic way it can come around and slap you in the face.